Hi everyone. Last week I introduced a new feature for Apex called Postfix completion templates, and I've gotten some very positive feedback on it. It's been very well received. And additionally, I've gotten some suggestions for some additional templates that would really be useful, I think, by anybody. So I want to show those, but it also put pretty concretely into my head that I don't necessarily want to be in the critical path to be a bottleneck on the creation of these new templates when users get ideas on things that would be useful to them or potentially to anyone. So I've also added the ability to create your own custom Apex postfix completion templates, and I'm going to demonstrate all of that here. The new ones I've introduced so that folks know that they're available, and also the ability to create your own custom ones, including replacing out of the box ones if you don't like the way that they necessarily operate and you want to make them your own. Now, having said that, I want to be clear that if you come up with an idea for a postfix completion template that would be useful to anyone who's doing Apex development, please still let me know about it, and I'll look at including it, give you credit for it, and hopefully help everybody else to be more productive with their Apex development. But this will also allow you to create templates that are more around the way that you develop, or the way that based upon technologies or patterns in your project that won't necessarily be applicable to others. So why don't we go ahead and dive in, and we'll take a look at the new out-of-the-box templates. So I'd already created a template called .sd, and by the way, this was all covered in another demo that was released last week. If you haven't seen that one yet, go watch that, because this one's going to build on it, and then just come back to this one. So .sd, that's going to wrap whatever the expression is in a system.debug. And a user, Chris Baker, reached out via the discussion groups and then subsequently the public issue tracker, saying it'd be great to be able to know what that logged thing is. What is that expression that I'm seeing in there? So Chris recommended a account.sdv. So want to log a variable, or in this case, just a generic expression, whatever it happens to be. And it is going to put a textual representation as a string literal of the thing that is then being written to the debug log. Makes all the sense in the world. In fact, I think that'll be the one that most people use most often. A little embarrassed that I didn't just make that the default. So thank you, Chris, for bringing that to my attention, because it just shows what the real world application of that really would be. And for parity, there was also a account.stj that this was already available that would do a JSON serialization of the value being output. And so for parity, I went ahead and did account.sdjv, which is effectively the combination of those. And because it's not always obvious which takes priority, JSON serialization or the fact that you want the expression of the variable printed, SDVJ is a synonym for that. So you can do either one. So SD and either VJ, variable is JSON, or JSON variable. So those are some of the new out-of-the-box ones. So thank you, Chris, again, for bringing that to my attention. For the next one, already had the ability to do iteration of a collection based on the expression. And in fact, you could do kind of arbitrary indirection for an expression. So I could do accounts by IDs key set and then iterate the keys instead of having to extract that to a variable. Or I could do the values of that map values.iter. What I can't do very easily, though, or couldn't do very easily, is the key value pairs, the entries. So account.ids. Now, in, for example, Java, you would have entry set, and then you'd be able to do iter. But as you can see, entry set is not actually an available method on the Apex map. So what can we do? Well, there's a new template, iterate map entries, itme. So I can hit tab, and what it's going to do is an outer iteration on the key set, and then within the block of that, it's actually going to immediately fetch the value for that key, and then you have the key value pair, and you can begin operating on it. So gives basically the functional equivalent of the ability to go through the entry set from a map in other libraries. All right, so those are the new out-of-the-box ones. Now let's talk about custom templates. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of scroll down, and let's talk about how you can create your own custom templates. So you go into settings or preferences, and you go to editor general postfix completion. Showed this last week, and I'm just going to kind of move down real quick to take a look at Apex. So these are the out-of-the-box templates. Here they are. If you try to edit them, it's just going to allow you to edit the key. It will not allow you to actually edit the template itself because these are the out-of-the-box ones. But I will show you how you can override one or replace one if you want. Let's do a different first example, though. And let's say that we wanted to do a postfix completion template that is the analog for the SQ, so SOQL query. live template. And so what this will do is select ID from the expression. In this case is going to be the S-object type. And now you can filter where this is available. So when you hit the dot after an expression, what types of expressions should allow this to be used? And really, it's only ones that evaluate to an S-object type. Wouldn't make sense to say list dot or string literal dot and then say you want to go query from that. So it needs to be an S-object type. And this does need to apply to a topmost expression. We'll look at an example in a moment that doesn't necessarily have to, but in this case, it doesn't make sense to take an intermediate expression in an expression hierarchy and go query from it. So now we're going to actually create the template itself. So I'm going to say select ID. Now I want the caret to be placed here when the expression finishes, or when the template finishes executing from. Now you can see that in all of these templates, you need to provide this variable expert. You can do it more than once if you want, but it needs to be provided, and that is actually going to be the expression on which the postfix template was activated. So that's going to be our S-object type. And so that's really it. So let's go ahead and say OK, and we can now see our SQ here. The description, by the way, there's no way to provide your own description here. It's just going to say user-defined postfix template. But the nice thing is in the completion drop-down, it actually is going to show your example. So it's going to be good for you to either put your description text or a concrete example there. So let's say OK, and let's go over here, and I'm going to type account.SQ, and you can now see there's my example text. And when I hit tab, it fills that out exactly as I wanted. It leaves the caret where I wanted. So I can now say I want to also get the account number and annual revenue. And so now I've really completed that postfix completion template. And if I want to extract this into a variable, I could use Illuminate Cloud Support for extract variable refactoring. And so now I actually have that. So that's a way I can translate one of the live templates to be a postfix completion template for quickly putting together a variable. And we can show that that expression type template is works. So I can say list dot, and you'll notice SQ is not available. So it's only available, but if I said opportunity, and said SQ, it is available. So that shows how that particular filter works. Let's do another one. In this case, I'll show how you can replace or override an out-of-the-box template. So I'm going to go back down to Apex, and let's say that we want to specialize that new SDV to show the expression slightly differently based upon the way that we search for things. So the first thing we need to do is disable or provide a new key for the out-of-the-box SDV. And now we can add a new Apex template. We can use that same key. This is just if you wanted to. You could also supply your own custom key. And we're going to say system.debug, and that'll make it an easy pattern for us to look for. And we'll say EXPR, and we'll go ahead and say that this applies to non-void types. It wouldn't make any sense to try to print out something like the result of a method that has no return value. So it needs to be something, an expression that evaluates to some value of some type. So non-void. And by the way, I'll just kind of look at this real quick. You can see that there are several other filters here. If you find that there's another type of filter that would be useful to you, let me know. I've tried to include some of the most common ones, but there may be other ones, date time, something like that, that you would find useful. Custom S objects versus standard S objects. Whatever. This also needs to be applied to a topmost expression, because it wouldn't make sense to just wrap a system debug around part of an expression hierarchy. So we're going to do exactly what we set up there. System.debug $expert. I mentioned earlier that you can put the expression twice, equals, and now we're going to put expression again, and we'll go ahead and say we want to end at the end of the line, and we'll say OK. And let's take a look at what happens. We'll go ahead and say accounts.sdv, and you can see it's now using my customized version of that, not the out-of-the-box one, and it has now filled that in. So that's a way that you can customize them. Now, to be clear, you can't customize or replace all of the out-of-the-box templates, only the ones that effectively decorate a single expression. But for example, for I, which needs to get a loop variable, or iter that needs to get a loop variable, those are not possible to be replaced in the current implementation of postfix completion. That's not just with Apex, that's across the board. It needs to be something that just decorates the selected expression. Let's do one more to show when you would want to leave use topmost expression unchecked. And then that'll be it for this demo. Okay, so let's do something like, we have a not one that'll do a Boolean negation of a Boolean expression. Let's effectively replicate that in a simple way. So we'll call it negate, because we just want to make this another option. And we'll just make this wrap the expression with a Boolean not and then a parenthesized sub-expression. And so again, we only want this to operate on Boolean expressions, not on other types of expressions. And this can apply to any expression in the expression hierarchy, not just the topmost expression. And of course, it's very simple. We'll just put not expression. Now, you don't have to put the dollar in dollar. I'm going to show what happens if you don't do that. It'll just leave it where the caret effectively was. So we've added that negate, and we'll do this. And then I've already added a Boolean expression here, so we don't have to type this out. And I'm just going to say negate. And you can see it'll do a not parenthesize on the expression. Now, because this is a composite expression, a compound expression in expression hierarchy, it's going to walk up the expression hierarchy from where I've started that, and it's going to allow me to select. So I can select this one, and then I could say negate, and then I can decide which one I want, and so I'll go ahead and do the whole expression. So you can see that would be an example of when you wanted to have it operate on any expression in the expression hierarchy from the point at which the postfix template was activated. Hopefully that all makes sense. So if you wanted to share your custom postfix completion templates with folks, they are not going to be available in the project config files. And that makes sense because you probably want to have these available for every project in which you operate. So the way that you would do that is you go to File, Manage IDE Settings, Export Settings, go ahead and deselect everything. And then we're going to type postfix, and you can filter that and just export your postfix completion templates. And so then you could just name this file like postfix settings and give this zip to whoever you want it, or check it in somewhere so everybody has access to it, and maintain this as your set. And that's the way that you could share this, because these are IDE level settings, not project level settings. Okay, so that's it. Couple of the new ones. With at least one suggested by user. I appreciate that, Chris. And additionally, the ability to create your own. And so I'll be interested to hear what you do with this. Obviously, if you create ones that you think would be useful to other people, as I said, please let me know about it, and I'll evaluate whether it makes sense to include it in the base product. If you find issues, let me know about those as well. If you have ideas of other expression type filters that would be useful to you, let me know about that. Otherwise, thank you very much for your time, and I hope you enjoy the feature. Bye.